Hello and welcome to another edition of MLB Pro Happy Hour / 3 slurred minutes / let's talk about whatever the heck is going on in MLB Pro. Tonight I am joined currently by Brenton, Jonathan Hodges, Chicago White Sox. We got people, we got news, we got stuff to discuss. The big thing that came about today was the extension of Brian Inoa in Toronto. Sparked a bit of an uproar in MLB Pro land. Brenton, how about you take the lead with this?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what sparked the whole emergency pod here, right? Was every time Brian Inoa's name is mentioned in the chat, Mitch goes also defensive on it, and I fucking love it. It's spectacular to watch. Typically, it's Kaiser going at him a little bit, but him and Hodges got into it. Just kind of go back and forth about like what's a good player, right? I think in Mitch's heart of hearts and his little 23-year-old heart, he knows that Brian Inoa is not a good baseball player, especially for a team that's supposed to be the class of the American League. But I think he just gets so much fucking joy out of defending him against all of us that he's never going to let it go. I'm not really convinced. Mitch isn't really Dave reincarnated, honestly, sometimes when he goes at these things so aggressively. But, we kind of jokingly egged on the conversation and decided to go for it. So I guess the point of this conversation is defense important for the right side of the middle infield, right? And then what does WAR mean as a statistic in MLB Pro? Those are the two main sticking points, I guess, in this argument. So if we want to get into that as a conceptual piece, we absolutely can. I don't know, argument.
Let's start with this. Billy Hamilton was acquired by the Chicago White Sox on basically, it looks like Christmas. Hodges, at the time, what was your expectation for Billy Hamilton? And now 3 months and 2 months, however long, many months into the season we are, how has he met those expectations?
He was expected to be a back of the lineup addition, number 8, number 9 hitter, hit 280, get on base at 310, still 30, 40, 50 bases, play above average defense, and hopefully beats more of a backup, kind of fill in where needed. Because at the time we had also Ruiz, we had, I'm going to forget his name. I haven't had him at the Major League rotation this year. Preston Carver. We had Preston Carver that was set up to be the starting second baseman. So he was meant to be kind of a depth piece with some potential for starting position. He exceeded our expectations, which is why we started him the first, 30, 40, 50. I'm moving the phone around because I'm trying to see. I have a tiny little laptop. He started, I don't have it right in front of me, but he was never expected to be the absolute everyday starter. He was meant to be depth, and he has instead hit 263. He has a, 7.0.8 WAR. He's on pace for 1.7 WAR. He has stolen
20 bases.
20 bases, yeah. So, and played above average defense. So he's exceeded all of our expectations for a very minimal output. So sorry, this is my first time.
Looking at Hamilton,
enjoy all of this, but yeah.
He's tied his career, as of now, he's matched his career high batting average 263, which he had in 2018 with the Reds. His on-base percentage is a tick below 300, right around his career average, or right around his career best. All things on paper appear to be having a tremendous year, or a tremendous year in terms of his career. And when you look at things are working in Chicago. Before I think we dive into the more conceptual things that you wanted to, Brenton, while we have Hodges here, we might as well pick his brain here. The Esteban Hernandez trade.
Hold on, before we go that way, I want to make one quick point that addresses something Mitch said earlier, and I do apologize.
No, go for it.
He mentioned in the chat that stolen bases are overrated, and it's one of his sticking points. So him and I might have to go into this one day. I don't disagree necessarily that stolen bases for stolen bases' sake are an overrated statistic. But if you look at the way the Arizona Diamondbacks came out of the gate this season, early on, I don't know if you can go back and isolate the beginning of their schedule when they were in first place in the NOS. They were running like crazy. A lot of that was on my Atlanta Braves, unfortunately, because Greg Bird can't throw at his fucking grandma running from first to second. But they were running. They were scoring runs because of it. They were getting people in scoring position. I get that argument is that stolen base is a dead or an overrated statistic, but the Diamondbacks saw success with it early this year, and there were some teams in MLB Pro history that I can't name off the top of my head that have seen success with that strategy of run and score, run and score. So Billy Hamilton advance is not as overrated as Mitch made it seem, in my opinion.
I don't know why small ball baseball has to be considered outdated. It's not archaic, in my personal opinion.
I agree.
I mean, just look at MLB Pros, the success the Angels have had the last few years. A team, I think, well, the middle of the order gets a lot of attention, but Mike Trout, the bottom of the order, even this year, I don't believe they're anywhere near the top in home runs. So Billy Hamilton, I mean, even Toronto, what they added, Ryan Nash. Doesn't Ryan Nash run a ton?
Yes, he does. Or he can. I don't know if he's doing it in Toronto.
I mean, so they while teams like New York, Rhett's team, it's get on base and let it ride, and Velasquez hit homers, and maybe you have a team like Seattle that has all these guys getting on base station to station. They're looking for the long ball, and maybe things are a little different in the American League compared to Arizona and the National League. But stolen bases, getting on base, moving a base, getting a big hit, to me, still a part of the game.
Agreed.
I think the bigger issue, and it was something you wanted to touch a little bit on, WAR. What is it good for? Is WAR the best metric to determine what a player's value truly is?
I don't think so personally. But to be fair, I'm not a baseball purist at heart, I guess, right? But in my opinion, WAR is an interesting statistic. It's fun to look at. But I guess in Mitch's argument, a guy like Bryce Harper, you get 2 good weeks before you hit that midway point in the season, you can kind of jump that projected WAR up. Now, I don't know if they were arguing the same thing, but I think WAR is something that you look at, and it gives you a good look at the rest of the league, but it doesn't necessarily tell you whether a player is valuable or not long term.
I tend to agree with that. You look at a player like Bryce Harper last year. A WAR of 3.6. Would the 29 other teams in MLB Pro have taken Bryce Harper in a heartbeat? My guess would be yes. So might there have been a guy who had a 4 WAR, and if you really put them together and ask who would you rather have, Bryce Harper still would have been the answer. So Brian Inoa, what his WAR is now, what's it going to be 100 games from now, what Billy Hamilton's career WAR is, what will it be 100 games from now? Tough to say. I think at the end of the day, both serve the purposes of what both GMs are looking for.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Billy Hamilton, not defending him as an everyday second baseman for a contending team. I think he is a decent contender, but if I had a chance to upgrade over him, would I? Absolutely. Is Inoa the upgrade? No.
Danny Espinosa is available. Just letting everybody know.
Yeah.
Trade's gone here. On the topic of, I think, Billy Hamilton and upgrades, as we started to get at, the upgrade of the Esteban Hernandez trade, a trade that I think was predicated on his free agent status at the end of the year, and the jumpstart that the Chicago White Sox have gone on since that trade. 26-8 since May 1st. Potentially the best record in baseball. I don't have that as a fact, but 26-8, that's pretty good. What's going right in Chicago right now other than everything?
Luck. It's largely luck. I mean, the offense has been clicking, but if you look at the BABIP on all of them, I mean, it's way above average. The pitching has been decent, closer to what we hoped for, but it's still not where we hoped it would be. Do I expect this to continue? No, I don't. It will return to a mean. We have a series actually coming up, the next series starting tomorrow night with the Cleveland Indians and Aiden, and I fully expect him to win 2 of 3, if not more. We've just been really lucky. We also had a weak schedule the last few weeks. We had a lot of games against Detroit, a lot of games against Kansas City, and Minnesota, who is really struggling. And it's that's not necessarily a comment on how good our team is. Do I think we have a chance to playoffs? Yes. Do I think we're this team? No.
The series that you mentioned begins Tuesday night in Chicago with Bill Black on the mound.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I don't even know what to ask. Where do we see Bill Black going? Is his control the biggest issue? Is it his misfortunes defensively with batting average against on balls in play of 340, some 60 points higher than it had been either in 2019 or 2018? So if that lowers, do you suddenly expect him to be at least a whole lot closer to his career self?
I mean, according to my scout, his control rating has not changed. His walk rating has gone from 3.2 last year and 3.3 the year before to 4.4 this year per 9. Yeah, that's a steady increase. That's not good. But his home run rating has gone from 0.7 in 2018, 0.5 in 2019 to 1.4 this season. And then what was I looking at? His ground ball percentage. Where is it? It's ground ball percentage. I can't quickly find it now, but his ground ball percentage has gone from last year. I don't know why I'm having a hard time finding it. This year anyway, point is his ground ball percentage has been the huge problem. His ground ball percentage has gone to 60%. It's gone up, and his home run rating has almost tripled. Mitch at one point commented in the main league that he was not a movement guy. He was had a control hit. His control hasn't changed. His movement has gone down.
And his control hasn't been fantastic though in the past.
No, it's never been fantastic, but it hasn't changed.
No,
it's always been, the rating has never changed.
Because
his big thing appears to be just nothing more than this: his success against right-handed batters. This season, right-handed batters are hitting 328.
Agreed. His splits this year are horrible.
Last year they hit 224.
Agreed.
On base percentage last year 302. This year 416. So I mean he's just getting obliterated by right-handed batters.
Agreed. And then I'm trying to figure out is why. that's what I can't figure out is why all of a sudden the right-handed hitters, because none of his ratings have really changed except for a slight decrease in movement. So we're looking at potentially moving him down in the rotation come All-Star break when we kind of reshift our rotation. And maybe that has some impact because even though out of the park baseball tracks batters production based on where they are in the rotation, it doesn't really track where they are based on the starting rotation pitchers. But I have definitely seen where it has an impact, moving guys up and down the rotation. So we're going to try moving them around and see if that makes any impact.
Might Jake Jeffries, I guess he isn't really a great defensive catcher either, potentially giving Sanchez the day off or at least move to DH on days Black starts. Had that been a consideration at all?
Yeah, we've given Jeffries a few starts. In fact, I think we just started him last night against Detroit. But Sanchez will be our catcher going forward. Kybert Ruiz, our biggest prospect catcher, has been mentioned around in a few trades, trying to figure out how we can get better going into the postseason this year because it's our first big chance to kind of get into the postseason. So Gary Sanchez is probably our catcher going forward.
The other side of things was Esteban Hernandez, and he went to Cincinnati. And since then, Cincinnati's traded seemingly everyone to anyone, including today a trade of third baseman Alonso Martinez, who was sent to the Colorado Rockies. Martinez in 65 games, just over 260 at-bats, was hitting 295 with an on-base percentage of 330, a slugging percentage of 450, on pace for 22 home runs. He steals bases. He's 11-16 on the year. Moves to Colorado in exchange for 3 pitching prospects. What does this do to a Colorado team that wasn't getting a ton of production at third base? I guess Trevor Story wasn't bad. Story can also play shortstop, but they have Correa there. Overall, what does this trade mean to the Colorado Rockies and their hunt to chase down the Arizona Diamondbacks, San Diego Padres out in the NL West?
I love it. I mean, I think the Rockies are, again, we've talked about the Rockies a couple of times in some of these podcasts, right? Like as being the class of the National League. And I think that is getting a little bit more crowded as much as the American League may not want to admit it, with the Mets being there, the Pirates granted, I have shit all over the Pirates and much to the dismay of Pirates management. But, I think if you look at guys like the Diamondbacks and a couple other teams that are making runs, right, the National League is getting a little more crowded. But the Rockies, by far, are the only team that they're going to have a chance to compete this year. I think plugging a guy like Martinez in does wonders for this lineup. They don't have a ton of speed, which is something we've talked about. Now, again, you don't necessarily need it in Colorado, but I think it's a nice thing to have. He, like you said, he played good defense. The dude can hit. It's been a weak spot for them for a couple of years. Eddie himself said it's been his biggest bugaboo for years since he joined the league. So as a National League homer and fan, I am ecstatic that the Rockies got better while not sacrificing anything in the current. The future pieces, yeah, those are good pieces, but his team stayed intact for now.
You mentioned some teams in the National League. I just want to get this off my chest here. I think I've mentioned it before. And apologies to Mitch. Apologies to the Red Hot White Sox. Apologies to the Mariners. Apologies to the Angels, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, and Ryan. The best team in MLB Pro today is the New York Mets, and it's not close.
You would say the Mets are the best team in the league, Angels and Mariners included?
Included either league. The best team as of today, the team that if I were anyone in the league that I would not want to play in a 7-game series, the New York Mets.
Was that the case before the Greg Bird acquisition, or is that a new thing?
No, Greg Bird and what he's done in New York, I think, has solidified things. He's now hit 8 homers in 19 games, hitting 333. He's on fire. But that rotation of Vega, Lincecum, Neese, Harvey, Scherzer, a solid bullpen, and they're all doing this with what? Wilcox and Dendecker not really doing a whole lot so far on the year. They put that together, and they will. They've historically done it every. I mean, Matt Dendecker is hitting 204. I don't know how long that's going to last.
Absolutely not.
That division with your help in your rebuild. While the Marlins are back to 500, the Marlins are playing good baseball. The Nationals are the Nationals, and the Phillies aren't going anywhere. So they're doing this. It's much more impressive what they're doing in the East than what Ryan's doing in the Central, even with the Pirates playing well. The NL West is going to beat up on each other all season long. So to me, what the Mets are doing is awfully impressive, and I would not want to play them if I were anyone in the playoffs.
Look, there's no argument that the Mets aren't good. There's no argument, but you can't. And I don't mean to get this heated with it, but you can't sit here and tell me anybody's going to beat the Mariners in the series. And I'll actually include the Angels in this. Like, I went back and I looked at Justin Hooper specifically and his statistics. That guy is unfucking believable. There was a point where he went 160 strikeouts to 8 walks over 2 years in the minor leagues. I get it. It's the minor leagues. But Jesus, man, this guy's unbelievable. You put him and a couple of those arms on top of an offense that includes guys 1 to 9 that are all all-stars on any other team. I can't get behind anybody but the Mariners for the next World Series. And that is a curse on Justin Kaiser for sure. But as much as I'd love to see the Mets beat him, I can't see it happening. Unless
there are two things going against Kaiser here. The bullpen. I don't care what he does. There's going to be issues. And the fact that, again, there is a strong likelihood that his ALDS opponent is going to be the Angels.
That's
and
tough.
While the Angels pitching is awful, in a shorter series, that becomes less of an issue for the Angels. It's a matchup against Seattle's got the advantage. There's no doubt about it. You throw 4 games of Hooper and Holtzen together, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But the Angels with Copeland and Funkhauser can match them for 4 games. 7 games? In a 7-game series, it's a much bigger advantage for Seattle than it would be in a 5-game series. And the only way the Angels and Mariners can play is in the ALDS.
Yeah. That's a decent point. Maybe I'm biased because I see the Mets a couple times a year, and I've had so many years hating Bruce and what he's done in this division and battling it out with him that I'm torn on it. But I just can't see anybody beating the Mariners. They're stacked, and he did it for this year. It's only this year, and then he's gonna blow it up at some point. You know he is. But
speaking of blowing it up,
Kaiser is so excited about the idea of blowing it up.
He wants to blow it up so bad.
Blowing it up. I want to get back to the AL Central. Hodges. The Minnesota Twins. What do they do?
He always finds a way. I mean, life will find a way. Is that not the Jurassic Park quote?
It is.
He will somehow find a way to get back into it. He will make a trade. He will spend something between now and July 31st, and he will be in it. What is he? He's 6.5 games out right now, I think. He's 6.5 out of first. He is wild card. He is 6 games out of the wild card. He will find a way to get back into it. Life finds a way. And Rocky somehow is life, apparently.
Rocky is not life.
31 and 35.
Yeah. Your mouth to
some,
Aiden's ears.
some of the worst pitching in the American League. I'm with you. If they can
but
put any type of pitching together.
But he has good pitchers.
Injuries have rocked them. Barnes, Tanaka both spent time on the DL for significant. I mean, Barnes is out for the year, but Tanaka's been out for a couple of weeks now with blisters. Kevia Sampson's been bad. Colementer's been bad. Evaldi's been awful.
Eovaldi is. There's a lot of pitchers who have fallen into a pit that 2020 has created. The whole OOTP-XX, however you want to put it. And Eovaldi has fallen into that same home run per 9. He was the best in the American League, I believe, the last 2 years at 0.4 and 0.5, and now he's 2.2.
That's bad.
Yeah, that has to right itself at some point, doesn't it? I mean, does it?
I would think so.
I would hope so, for his sake. I mean, not that I want it to correct itself. I would love for that to continue. But I think for his sake, it has to correct itself. Same was with Bill Black. Same was with Stevens and Cleveland. There's a lot of pitchers who have fallen that same fate.
On that topic, staying in your division, a player that has been in the headlines of the Detroit newspapers frequently here the first half of the season being Jordan Lyles. What do we expect the Tigers to do between now and the deadline? Some believe Lyles will be moved. Others think that contract makes it impossible to move.
Yeah.
Some think Detroit's just going to mess around and give him the bullpen, hope he opts out after next season. So it'd be a year and a half of I don't know what doing with them. What do we think Jim and Josh do here with Jordan Lyles?
Go ahead, Brenton.
I would assume somebody buys, right? And I think we've been in this weird, like, quiet period of trades after there were a bunch of big moves, right? We are coming closer and closer to the trade deadline, and I think you're going to have teams that have shit to get off the pot, right? You've got teams like Pittsburgh, who, again, I can't keep coming back to them, but, like, they got a shot to make the playoffs, right? They really, really do. As bad as I think that team is, I think that they make a move or two, they can keep themselves in the National League race. There's always going to be a team or two. If Houston can make a little run, does Houston go make a move? I don't know what they need. Their team's solid, but, like, someone's going to want something. I promise you. And it's going to be Jordan Lyles, whether it'd be discounted Jordan Lyles, but it'll be him. It'll be, a pitcher off of these teams. Like, no, Allard's already moved, but it'll be somebody, I promise you. And the way that Jim and Josh move, they're slow, they're calculated, they're patient, they're willing to look beyond your top OSA prospects to find gems in the rough. They're going to move Jordan Lyles. And it's just going to take a couple games in the right timing. Now, he gets hurt, fuck it, it's all gone. But I think he's gone off the Detroit roster by the end of this, by mid-June, whenever the hell the trade deadline is. Not mid-June, whenever it is.
He's an interesting piece. A home ERA 3.5, a road ERA above 7. So does that appease and interest teams that are looking to bring him into their own ballpark? It's scary, but man, is that defense in Detroit bad? Give him a fresh start, and that's a pitcher that can eat innings, give you quality starts. It was not a match made in heaven when Jordan Lyles signed in Detroit, but man, did his bank account sure enjoy it.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
On the topic of acquisitions, another question was brought up to me. 2 more trades out of Cincinnati, because every trade seems to be out of Cincinnati right now. Which American League contender or wild card contender boosted boosted their playoff chances more? Archie Bradley being moved to the Yankees, or Cameron Maben and co. being moved to the Texas Rangers? You had to buy and sell the playoff chances of the Yankees versus the Rangers. Who you buying?
Yankees.
Right. Rangers.
Ooh, really?
Let's start with that. Why the Rangers?
They were so close last year. God bless Rhett. I love Rhett to death.
I do too.
I just don't know if
He's my guy.
I don't know if that money's going to work. I mean, they just keep pumping money into it. I don't see how Archie Bradley's going to get over the top. Whereas I feel like Texas was just getting really unlucky. They had a good club already. A couple additions, they could be right there. They weren't far out of it already. I mean, I know New York was already there. They're trending downwards, whereas Texas is trending upwards.
What
Other side of that, Brenton, the Yankees?
Yeah, I'd say don't buy the streak, right? You already kind of hit yourself with you don't believe that your team is going to be the team that's on this streak and on this hot run. I disagree with that, and when it comes to these two teams, don't buy the streak, right? Texas, regardless of talent on the team, still has to play Houston, Seattle, LA, and Oakland, who, despite their bad record, I like Oakland's team. They're not an easy out. Whereas New York will play the Red Sox, who have been abysmal this year. Baltimore, who, despite their decent record, is not a good major league club, right? Toronto's their big challenge for sure. Tampa Bay is actively trying to get rid of major league pieces. So the Yankees are going to have an easier path to this thing. And while Archie Bradley is not the sexy pickup, I love Cameron Maben's bat. I do. He's one of those guys that his statistics have never really matched up with his ratings, in my opinion. I love him. I really, really do. I think they have an easier path. So I think, acquisition aside, the Yankees are your bet because they'll have an easier schedule down the line.
That's a really good point.
I tend to agree, though, with Hodges. You have a team in Texas with the American League's second-best starting pitching ERA. A rotation led by Caprillion, Widner, McMillan. 1, 2, 3. Not as sexy as Seattle's, but it's awfully good. Their weakness is the bullpen. It's been awful. Addison Reed blows saves left and right. Brian Wilson's arm is falling off. Ben Rowan has been bad. He was bad last year. He's been bad this year. Martin Perez coming over in the Cameron Maben trade could be the most important piece of that trade. If he's able to give that bullpen solid innings, they can make a run. And while playing the likes of the Astros, the A's, the Mariners, the Angels isn't easy, it does give them opportunity to catch teams by beating them, whereas New York needs a little bit of help. But I hear you, that the AL East.
Yeah, I mean, he can catch teams, but he's not catching Seattle or LA. Like, so there's no way he's catching either of those teams. He's competing for a wild card spot. We're all being totally honest with ourselves here. Yeah. And so it's about catching someone. He's not catching either one of those guys to win the division. So he has to catch the wild card winner. And while he is battling with those dudes, Texas is picking off easy wins left and right. We've all kind of discounted the fact that Cleveland, Minnesota, and Chicago are going at each other in the Central, right? Again, that's a tough battle, but then you do get Kansas City and Detroit. So you've got two divisions where the bottom two teams are much, much easier to pick off than out West. I don't think you're ever going to see three teams in the National League, but what's happened before in the American League coming into the playoff situation again, while the Central and the East have kind of solidified their top three teams. So who knows? Maybe it comes to pass, but I think they're going to have a tough go of it in Texas. I love the Texas team. I love all 5 AL West teams. They just happen to be all in the same division, which sucks.
Just
that's
a couple
a good
minutes.
point, because let's be honest, nobody wants to be the second wild card team in the American League.
Nope.
Nobody wants to go up against whoever loses between Seattle and Los Angeles. I sure as hell don't, and I know nobody else does.
Nah.
That's it.
We're running out of time here shortly. Actually, we still got 10 minutes. I guess we got time.
We got time.
What else was on your mind? What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is not going to be interesting to anybody than me. I am probably more excited than most about the acquisition of Arturo Gomez from Boston and down here in Atlanta. We're not going to win this year. He's 28 years old. He's a free agent after the year. I get it. I can't expect him to demand much. But to go back to our favorite for a contract renegotiation, right? But Go back to our favorite stat, the WAR. He had a 4 WAR almost last year in Boston as an outfielder. He has great contact. He shouldn't strike out a ton. He's not going to generate a ton of power. He's fast. He plays multiple outfield positions very well. Derek Fletcher's an interesting prospect, but I'm real excited about a guy like Arturo Gomez to maybe be the bridge or the veteran presence, a la Carl Crawford in Boston. Well, he's kind of a dick, I guess. A la somebody here in the future for the Braves. To be the kind of veteran presence for our team. I'm real pumped about him coming on and hopefully re-signing here. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about him as a potential future player here anywhere, not just in Atlanta.
Well, can we start with this, and then I'll let Hodges break it down. Am I saying things correctly, or is his batting average 148 with an on-base percentage of 317?
Yeah,
what is he doing? Is he bunting the ball back to the pitcher every at bat? How is that possible?
He's not going to be doing that anymore if that's been his strategy. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, it might have been. I think he's had a bad run, right? He had a great year in Boston last year, and he had a bad start to this year. I like Boston's team. Boston's had a rough go of it, so I get what they're doing here. But I thought they sold too quickly on him. I like him as a player.
Yeah, he's hitting 151 with an on-base percentage of 333 against righties. So he's getting on base. He's just not doing it by hit. I mean, if his batting average improves at all, he's a steal in Atlanta.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. So I was interested to see if anybody had a different thought of it. It was a quiet move, right? Derek Fletcher, Arturo Gomez, not sexy names in this league, but I'm excited.
What does Atlanta do next? Chris Gray has been rumored to be on the trade block the past few week or so.
Yeah, he's been a guy that has been undervalued, I think, in Atlanta. He has been spectacular. He's gone bullpen to starting rotation, and maintained an ERA. This year it's a little inflated. My whole roster has been inflated with their ERAs. I think our BABIP has been very bad, considering the fact that we have good defenders all the way around the field. I don't understand it. It's been very bad. So I think a guy like Chris Gray can be a sneaky pickup for fairly cheap down the line. He doesn't stay in Atlanta through the deadline. I can't imagine he's a free agent after the year. He's not going to expect much to re-sign, but I'm not re-signing a 30-year-old pitcher, regardless of how good he is, right? So he'll probably move. Espinoza probably moves. We did our depth chart for 2021 yesterday, and it's an exciting future. I think you look at guys, you've asked about Robinson Rivera. You asked about John Butler. John Butler probably gets a call up this year. Rivera will probably spend the year in AAA working out if he can be a starter or not. Guys like Jamie Vega, who's really the main piece of that. Armando Cabanas trade probably comes up in the spring next year. Atlanta's year starts the day the World Series is over for us, and that is a very exciting thing. I can't wait to start winning baseball games again next year, hopefully. But for this year, it's about give George Lunn, Marvin Groon, guys like Brendan Rodgers, every fucking chance they can to prove that they belong in the major leagues before we kick them back to the minors or deal them off. And that'll be all of 2020, as agonizing as it may be.
Last thing, I guess, just a quick rundown of the week ahead. The Yankees host the Royals, so Rhett gets a look at his old team in the Royals. Phillies continue to host the Cubs. Minnesota heads to Baltimore for a chance to rack up some wins. Potentially the marquee matchup of the early part of the week is Seattle's trip across the border to Canada to take on the Blue Jays. With Dylan Bundy and Broderick Wilson on the mound tomorrow, a heck of a matchup. And I believe Justin Hooper's scheduled for Wednesday, game 2 of that series, coming back from his stint on the DL. The Red Sox are in Tampa. The Cardinals are in New York against the Mets. Jeffrey LeBlanc, Tim Lincecum headlined tomorrow's start. Dodgers to Cincinnati. Oakland in Detroit against, again, I don't know how fans are showing up in Detroit. Sorry, Jim. Sorry, Josh. But, I mean, the young pitching is exciting. Let's talk about that for a second. Matthew Liberatore, Anthony Chapman. Exciting pieces out in Detroit, right?
I love Libby.
Soki, or not, is it Soki?
Maury.
Like, I don't know why they sent him back to AAA. You're right. They have 3 young, exciting pitchers that I would go see if I were the Tigers fan. 100%.
So we had that. We had Washington and Atlanta, San Diego, Milwaukee, Texas, Houston, battle of the state of Texas, Cleveland, Chicago. Again, we have to at least mention this. How about the perfect game this past week?
Yeah.
That was unbelievable.
Rod Swift.
How
Who was he
many
against
how
again?
many have we had of those in MLB Pro?
What was it? I
Total.
think Matt said 3.
It's,
Was it
yeah,
Three total? Okay.
5 years since the last one, I think you said, and there was one early on in our. I can't believe we're coming up on a decade, by the way, but that's a different topic.
That's scary. Arizona, Colorado, Jeffrey Stone, another start for him. How high up on your prospect ranking list is Jeffrey Stone?
Very high. I love Jeffrey Stone. I love everything about Arizona. I think that'd be terrifying.
Yeah,
They have done what Houston did in the American League. I'm worried because Houston seems to be taking a step back, but I love Houston and Arizona 2023 World Series champs or World Series battle. I'm promising you, like
2023? How about 2021?
Yeah, but Matt's got some magic up his sleeve that'll never go away. So he's always a concern. But 2021, 2022, they're going to be very exciting teams, and I'm pumped. Then Detroit at 2030.
Vlad Guerrero Jr., very good. And then the final two series of the year, early part of the week, the Pirates are in San Francisco. Will the Pirates stay alive? I'm on board, yes. Brenton's on board, no. Somewhere in between, I think, is the answer. And then Miami continues their AL West trip. Hosted Seattle these past few days. Now they make the trip out west to take on the Angels, a team that not playing well. But when you look at things, Mike Trout's still out, Caleb Cowart's still out. Who else? I think they got another guy out too. So an interesting team there. Guys, our 40 minutes is coming up to an end here any second now. So I'm going to thank both of you for joining me. Sam and others, thank you for your questions. Let's hop back on here during the week and see how things are going, especially in Chicago and Cleveland.
Yeah, thanks for being a voice of reason.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.